When the Night Comes Out presents Jump Scares. Today's bite-sized horror is entitled Sniper. Written by Bryan W. Alaspa. Narrated and produced by Allie James. Donovan cracked his fingers and then rested his eyes against the scope again. Nothing new was going on in the street below. The crowds were there, they were excited, they were moving around and acting happy, but the road was still empty. He sighed. It was the waiting that was the hardest part, just like the song said. He leaned back, carefully, not wanting to upset the rifle or the scope. He had it resting just perfectly and didn't want to disrupt anything. He stretched. The breeze through the open window was cool. He had done this so many times in so many different countries for so many people. This was his job. This is what he was built for. He had killed up close. Of course, he had done it so many times. Sometimes when you got hired to hit somebody, you just had to take care of things any way you can. He had been as close as standing next to a person, staring into their eyes and watching the light go out in them. He had long ago gotten over any feelings he might have felt when he snuffed someone. It was better that way. Of course, he hadn't had much in the way of feeling as a kid either. His father had seen that. His dad. He laughed. His dad had seen what he had been doing to various animals in and around the neighborhood and knew, right away, that Donovan was wired differently. Most parents would have been appalled, but not his old man. No, the guy was in the mob, you see. He was low level, but now he had a way to get on up the ladder. He began training Donovan almost from the time he could walk, it seemed. Of course, it was later than that, maybe about the time the average kid was learning to ride a bicycle. Instead of bikes, his father was teaching him how to assemble a rifle and sight it in seconds. While other kids were playing Little League baseball, he was learning how to sneak up on someone and snap their neck. He had made good money working for the mob, at first, but they had no vision. Their kills were always so boring. They just wanted other mobsters killed. It was fine. Donovan still did jobs for them from time to time, but the real excitement was working for governments. They sometimes even wanted average people, perhaps a businessman or a nosy reporter, taken care of. That always got Donovan off. He liked that. This job, though, was just average. The pay was great, but it was just a politician paying him to off a politician. In many ways, the politicians were just as bad as the mob. It had taken months of planning, months to find the patsy who would be paraded around in public as the culprit and then quietly killed in a prison somewhere. He liked the scope. It kept him in the thick of things, but also kept him far away. It reminded him of himself. He could be in a room surrounded by people and still feel detached. All around him, people were laughing and talking. He had learned to master the right laughs and things to say at the right times, but he felt nothing. Had someone walked in with a pile of cash, he would have killed every person in the room with his bare hands and not thought twice about it. Donovan knew he was wrong in the head, but the fact that he knew somehow made it better. He knew what he was, and he did what he did because he knew he was built to do this. His brain wiring made him the best at his job. Down below, the crowds got louder. He could hear motorcycles now as well, and just beyond that, a sound of motorcade engines. He put his eye to the scope again. The street came into view. The crowds were clapping. He noticed a family, mother, father, 2 children, beside the road. They were holding flags and clapping. Donovan sniffed. The smell of the person whose apartment he was in filtered into his nose. The heat was making the stiff stink. Donovan pushed it away. He'd be out of here soon, and then the police could find the body. He breathed steadily. The motorcade came into view. There she was. She was on the right, waving. She was wearing red, almost like wearing a target. Donovan wondered if the people who were paying him to do this had planned for her to wear red. She was a mom and a politician. Donovan thought of those kids. They would lose their mother today. But perhaps, Donovan thought, they would emerge from it stronger. Donovan had killed his own father, and it had done him a world of good. He waited. The car came forward. He regulated his breathing and gripped the rifle. His nerves were steady. The car came into view, the front end, then the driver behind the windshield, then the passengers in the front seat also waving. There she was. Her hair was blonde, her teeth were white. She was not unattractive. She was 40 years old, and someone wanted her to have no more birthdays. Donovan gripped the gun tighter. The crosshairs settled. Donovan pulled the trigger. Another day at the office. Thanks for listening to When the Night Comes Out Jump Scares. Be sure to like, share, and review. You can binge our first 2 seasons of full-length stories now. Until next time, try to stay safe when the night comes out. Hey guys, we appreciate your continued support, but we also would like to create a community around When the Night Comes Out. A community of horror fiction fans who support us so we can bring you even more stories, more scares, expand what we offer, and maybe even podcast merch. So be sure to visit patreon.com/whenthenightcomesout and become a supporter. Every amount helps. We'll see you next time, when the night comes out.